Welcome to the first episode of the 5-Minute Real Estate in Abundance podcast, where you will explore and learn real estate concepts and knowledge to help you invest smarter and create an abundant life through your real estate investments. My name is Crystal, and after many years of working as a real estate agent, I encounter answering the same questions redundantly to first-time home buyers, investors, and sellers when it comes to real estate terms and concepts throughout the purchase and sale of real estate property. I see a need every day to educate those who really want to know how real estate works when making a purchase or a sale. So in today's episode number 1, we will explore what the term due diligence means to real estate purchases, how it works, and how to make an informed decision when it comes to offering or receiving due diligence as a buyer, seller, or investor. So before we get into this lesson, please don't forget to like, share, leave a comment, and most of all, turn on your notification bell so when we drop new episodes, videos, house tours, you will be the first to know and to see. So let's get into it. For starters, let's talk about exactly what due diligence is. So when I meet first-time home buyers and sellers, I explain that due diligence is a fee negotiated between the seller and the buyer. This fee is for the purpose of the buyer being able to complete any and all inspections before the end of the due diligence date, which is negotiated between both parties. Now let's get into how due diligence is transacted or paid to the seller. So once the fee is negotiated and settled between both parties, the buyer has 5 options to pay the due diligence within the time frame negotiated. In North Carolina, which is the state I practice in, the contract allows payment within 5 days of the effective date of the contract, meaning that whoever is the last party to sign the contract and make it an effective contract is the date that you have 5 days to actually get the due diligence from the buyer to the seller. So the effective date of the official being under the contract to purchase the property is 5 days from the last party selling. So if the buyer is the last person to sell, then that is the effective to sign, that is the effective date. So in North Carolina, due diligence can be paid by cash. As a note, if you pay cash, make sure that you want check with your lender to know if that's all right, because all the paperwork needs to be traced and the funds need to be traced, because it can cause problems with your lender if they can't trace where the money comes from. And I ran into that problem maybe 1 or 2 times. It's an easy fix most of the times, but if you don't want to go through it, just do a cashier's check or something. Because the lender will make you show where the money come from. So you can pay with either a personal check, official bank check, wire, or electric transfer. And as I said, if you do cash, then make sure that you speak with your lender beforehand if you're on the buyer side, so that they could tell you how to trace it or how it needs to be done. Also, we are seeing that Cash App payments, Zelle payments are being taken. And again, check with your lender first if you're on the buyer side to see, what form of payment is best and okay to help your process go smoother. So due diligence goes to the seller and is held by the seller. If you understand earnest money and what it is, it usually goes to the attorney's office, but this goes directly to the seller, because if any reason you decide to pull out of the contract as a buyer, the seller is able to keep that for taking their house off the market and the inconvenience. So as the seller, you must provide any necessary information to the buyer or buyer's agent in order to receive the due diligence within the 5 days or whatever your state allots as far as the time frame that the due diligence needs to be turned in. And that is established by the contract or either both parties of the sale. The buyer is not responsible for any fees outside of the negotiated due diligence associated with the transfer of the funds. Meaning, if you incur as the seller any extra fees as far as bank fees for doing a transfer, Cash App fees or Zelle fees or anything, the buyer only has to pay the negotiated price. Those fees are on the seller. So after the due diligence has been paid, from the buyer to the seller. Now the buyer is within the negotiated time frame to begin all inspections necessary on the property. So I always advise my clients to have a general home inspection, HVAC inspection, and in North Carolina, a termite inspection, which covers everything from the roof to the crawl space and the interior and exterior. Other inspections may be necessary if the general inspector refers to some component of the house needing a more in-depth inspection. You would contact that vendor specifically, meaning, if they went up on the roof and they seen shingles missing or a possible leak or something, then you would need to, call a roofer. If they seen something that was dealing specifically with the fireplace, you would need to call a fireplace vendor or a pool or etc. So this time during your due diligence inspections is also the time that the attorneys, your agent, and lender will be working together to conduct due diligence research on the property and for your loan to make sure that there's no liens against the house, there's no deed issues, title issues, there's no encumbrances. You will know if there is easements or anything. They'll do that research. So as a big note and forewarning, it catches most buyers by surprise that after you hand over the due diligence for no reason at all, are you usually able to receive your due diligence back. So you will very rarely see instances unless the seller absolutely, lied about something, left a whatever. So if the seller, doesn't say something or there's a misunderstanding, more than likely you would be able to get your due diligence back, but you would still have to go through court to get it back after it's turned over. So if you decide not to go through as the buyer, then the seller, is still able to retain and keep the due diligence fee. So again, I say, unless the seller has breached the contract in some sort of way, you, the buyer, will lose your due diligence. So also as a note, if you try to get it back, chances are you would have to go through court, as I said. So my rule of thumb is to always do as much research up front and know as much as you can about the home before putting an offer in, and definitely before turning over due diligence money. You could, ask your agent certain questions, go in armed with knowledge as far as what to look for in the home to see, if there's any extensive damage or extensive repairs, and, possibly find out some information from the seller's agent as to, how much the seller is willing to do off of the inspection, if they're willing to negotiate inspections before you turn over this due diligence. I'm Crystal, and congratulations to you on being one step closer to knowing the ins and outs to investing in your home or investment property. Let me know if this video has helped you and what else I can explain as far as real estate. Contact information is in the description and about page. Thanks for watching and listening. See you on the next video. And as always, continue to be blessed, my homebodies.